Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. I'm your host, Dave Vance. Tonight our special guest is Austin Davis, a former deacon at Covenant Church in Nashville. Austin has an interesting story to tell that includes some documentation of things that happened at Covenant involving children years before the murders that were committed at the Covenant School this past year. Mr. Davis will be on in just a moment, but first, I want to give you a quick update on the announcement we made last week about the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, the resolution that was sponsored by the MSA, that's the Muslim Student Association, and the Democrat Socialist, that's the kind of garbage we have in our universities, by the way, that was passed by the student group there, Student Government Association. It's not going to be approved by the dean, is what I'm hearing. Apparently, they received a lot of calls opposing the plan to bring the 2 Gaza refugees over with a full ride at UTC. And to clarify, although they use the term refugee, they would have actually have come on student visas. Fortunately, they are not coming at all now, but I'll let you know if that changes. Thank you if you made a call or sent an email. For some legislation issues this week, House Bill 2082 by Representative Fritz is set for a hearing on April 16th in the House Criminal Justice Committee. It's been amended so that it now deletes the provision in Tennessee law that makes it an offense for anyone to carry a firearm anywhere, including your own home, at any time with the intent to go armed. The bill has opposition from Bill Lee's administration, the typical anti-gun Department of Safety, which regularly sends Elizabeth Stroker, who is paid by taxpayers, to tell the legislators why Bill Lee and the Department of Safety oppose the full exercise of rights protected by the Second Amendment. Lee's administration and the gun control advocates are apparently spreading misinformation about what the legislation would do in an effort to seduce legislators to oppose your rights as well. Please contact your legislators with cell phone calls, text messages, personal visits, and use this TFA-sponsored email tool to voice your support for this legislation. The Senate Judiciary has advanced the bill, but it still has to be heard in Senate Finance, Senate calendar, and it's on the full Senate floor. House Bill 1600 by Representative Williams is set for House Finance on April 16th. This bill is one that would violate the Supreme Court's Bruin decision and raises the age at which certain people can purchase or possess firearms to 25. It needs your calls to stop it. Visit the Tennessee Firearms website for more information. Talk a little bit about property rights. Oh, back up just a second here. In reference to 2082 by Fritz, if you can be there tomorrow in the full Criminal Justice Committee, please be there. Mr. Ross, the head of TBI, will be testifying against the bill, and Richard Archie of the TFA will be testifying for it. So if you can make it, please show your support for this legislation. Property rights. And this is from David Seal. He's the Jefferson County GOP chair. Under current Tennessee law, your property can be forcefully taken by local government for parks and recreation because our eminent domain laws are broadly constructed. Such takings are not excluded in Tennessee's definition of public use takings under TCA 29-17-102. This allows the government to take your property without consent for non-essential purposes, including recreational facilities. However, there is proposed legislation to eliminate takings for parks and recreation. Citizens need to act now to see this legislation through to the passage. This is Senate Bill 1984. It eliminates the takings for parks and recreation, which has already passed in the full Senate on a 26-2 vote. The companion House Bill 2120 is currently in the House Finance Ways and Means Subcommittee. This committee has placed the bill on notice for a hearing Tuesday, April 16th, racing against the clock to get House Bill 2120 to the House floor before the session ends. This is precisely why you need to call and email members of that committee. The fiscal note on the bill suggests that it may cost local governments a little more to purchase property for recreational facilities from a willing seller than if they acquired property using eminent domain. The eminent domain price usually favors the condemner because property value is determined by the count based on at least 2 certified appraisals. One of the many reasons that our legislature is considering eminent domain reform is related to what happened in Jefferson City, Tennessee. The City Council made a resolution in 2023 and spent nearly $13,000 on legal fees to forcefully take 95 acres of land away from the parent company of Jefferson County's only 4-star community hospital for a recreational facility. The attempted taking was so egregious that it triggered community outrage and persuaded the Jefferson County Commission to make a resolution condemning Jefferson City's overreach of government authority. The Jefferson County resolution called on the Tennessee legislature to adopt the Institute for Justice model legislation on necessity and to remove parks and recreation facilities from public takings. Jefferson City Council finally backed off the hospital property when the land was donated by a generous citizen on the other side of town to expand existing recreational facilities. Not all communities are so lucky. If we fail to change the law, your property or your community may be next. For more background on the Jefferson City situation, find out more at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Placed a link on Twitter and Facebook for the article as well. Now's the time for citizens to take action to persuade members of the House Finance, Ways and Means Committee to advance House Bill 2120 to full committee and onto the House floor for a vote. For more information, visit the Tennessee Stands website. Now it's time to bring in our special guest. Austin, thank you for coming on the show tonight. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, and I appreciate you having me on, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad to do it. So we're going to get right to it. I think most people in Tennessee believe that the manifesto of Audrey Hale, the Covington killer, should have been made public by now, and that all the resistance, including from the families, is suspicious. I think they're covering something up. Apparently you do too, and you claim with certainly some documentation that it goes back several years. There's a court hearing tomorrow in Nashville over the issue of having the manifesto released. You filed a request, I think it was called an intervening motion, related to this, but your request was denied. Do you know why the judge denied your request?
Well, I filed an intervening motion on February the 12th. And on the 13th, the motion was denied. And it's not just an intervening motion. Like I'm just some guy here that wanted to come down and file some motion about something I don't know anything about. I actually am a child sex abuse whistleblower within the church. I was a covenant deacon. I designed or helped create. I created it, and then somebody helped me design it. But the seal, the covenant school seal, and my daughter was in the first class of 2001 when the school began. And Audrey was in kindergarten and she was in first grade. And so Judge Miles then resurrected the denied intervening motion and used her sua sponte authority to convert it into an amicus brief. And it's just the kind of a difference. I was looking to have equal standing with the Covenant School and the Covenant Presbyterian Church and the parents and all, but I've been in a lot of court cases over many years now, and I haven't had equal standing ever, and taken a pretty big beating in all these courts. But they...
But real quick, just explain for some people that might not know what an intervening motion is.
Well, in other words, in this case, the police have all the information, and then the Tennessee Star, the Tennessee, and the National Police Association, they're all coming in because they've put in Freedom of Information Act requests to get these public documents or police reports or whatever, and they've not let those documents out to like they normally do, and so they filed their lawsuits, and then the parents and the school and the church came over with intervening motions. In other words, not really parties in the case, and they came in and asked to have a place, and they want to block the ability of those people to get that, and they're arguing that they've got reasons and rights to do that. But it's there's only one case, I think, in Tennessee where a victim has actually been able to accomplish that, and that was in the Vanderbilt rape case, if I remember correctly. So anyway, that's what it is. Is that explained for it to you?
Yes. And then so the judge denied that, but then she converted it to an amicus brief?
Yeah, an amicus is where you're just a friend of the court. Like there's four private schools, MBA, Oak Hill, St. Paul, Christian, and FRA are coming in and supporting the position of the school and the parents and all. So they're saying, no, don't let anybody get any of the information that's inside that the police have. And then there are different people that have filed. If you go left, I think I'm the only person that's come up there. And I've come with child sex abuse cover-up information, and I've been denied. And the amicus was denied on April the 6th, about, I don't know, a week ago. And now the Covenant School kids have returned to the campus where this went down a year ago. The cover-up, the child sex abuse cover-up is still ongoing. I think it's a very dangerous and unsafe school environment. I've called for them to shut the school down, but they're rolling on, and that's scary to me, especially after the 3 manifesto pages have gone out and people are reading that all over the country. And so, but they've got, and these are preschool kids, like 4 years old, that are up here in the middle of all this. It's really, kind of takes your breath away from my perspective.
So, do you know why she converted your motion to an amicus and then denied it? Do you know why she denied it, and what was the response of the parents? I'm assuming that had something to do with the denial.
Well, yeah. When the intervening motion would have given me like equal access, like they were having. I'm a lawyer. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'd be able to like I gave a list of witnesses that I wanted to call live in the courtroom and put them on there, and they've been televising them. I think the public needs to see what's going on. So I had about 10 witnesses, some police officers, different people, so I could get up here, have an open public court, and we used to have those in the United States of America, and ask questions and then air it out. But I think that's one thing they definitely didn't want to have happen, and so therefore they deny the intervening motion. But they don't want to be, that looks bad. They're denying a motion that's got child sex abuse. So there'll be 32 pages of exhibits and links and all kinds of sworn testimony in courts. They don't want to, be denying that. That's bad. So they do it in stages. And it's an amicus brief, and then they deny that right before they're going to have a hearing. And probably they'll seal this, and then nobody will ever see it again. It'll get sealed, and that'll be behind the doors, and nobody will ever know anything happening. So if you didn't have me on the show tonight, nobody in the state of Tennessee even have a chance to know any of this is going down.
So, and oh, by the way, just for the audience, I mean, we're talking to him via phone. He's not in the studio, so if I end up having to talk over him, I understand that. You said you had all these exhibits and all these witnesses. Can you tell us some about what you were going to present and who the witnesses were? Or were you allowed to tell us that?
The first witness was a guy named Jay Hager, who was a Covenant pastor, and he's a Covenant school father now. And Jay was a pastor there when this child sex abuse cover-up was going on, and he was a youth pastor. He's actually inside a sworn testimony that I've got where victim one in this other case is saying that he was told in 2007. So we're now in 2024. This thing's been going on a long time, and so he's one of them. There was several faculty members that are in there. I was sending email information out to people all over town. It's the only way I knew how to communicate, and I was providing them emails and sending them to people at the Covenant School, the faculty. Some of the parents got it. There's a certain percentage. I don't know if all of them know. They're having bad guide drills that they were having up there, and I'm pretty sure that I was the number one suspect because in 2017 I was arrested.
What were you arrested for?
I was arrested in church for trespass. I was there with my daughter and my wife, and we went. And there's actually a video that I think I sent to you that where the arrest is going on there. And Covenant actually has an armed security guard there for the church, not for the school. And he ends up being a Davidson County Sheriff's Sergeant, and he actually was on my second grand jury that indicted me. And so he's there. He's there telling us we can't go in, and then the police come and they're handcuffing me and they take me out. And my daughter's yelling at them, "Why are y'all doing this? Why aren't y'all arresting the people that are covering up child sex abuse?" And this is in 2015, so this is 8 years before the shooting is going to take place. But see, none of this has been reported on TV or told to anybody.
Okay, so let's back up here just a little bit. You were going to church one morning, and this is where you attended church on a regular basis. You were a former deacon at that point in time, right?
I was former, yeah. I was ex, yeah.
Okay, and you showed up for church one morning. You had been going there even after you were no longer a deacon, or there was a break in between and you?
Yeah, I hadn't been there in years, and I was having some people that had called me that had friends or different things where people are going, and there was armed security up there at the church on Sundays. And of course, we were in 4 court battles at that time. That was back in 2015. So from 2013 to 2015, I've got cases all before the Tennessee Supreme Court on these cases. And now I'm hearing that there's a security guard up there with a gun who's actually telling people my name. And so it's like I call it Fort Covenant. They're up there and they got to demonize me and turn me into this dangerous potential shooter that's going to come up there and shoot the church up. So they got a security guard out there, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, it must really be bad." And it's framing me. It's just setting up a narrative. And so then nobody's reporting on it. There's nothing that can be done. So I'm just the kind of guy, I don't like them doing that. And so I went up there basically to show my face and then to accept whatever happened. And they arrested me, and then I ended up being tried. It took 2 years. 2017, I had a trial. And it was aggravated criminal trespass and the Covenant School with the people that they were prosecuting on behalf. The DA Funk's office was prosecuting, and his sister-in-law, Diana Apple, is on the. She was working. She's a receptionist. She was there, and we were there in 2001. She's been there for 20-something years. So he's got a sister-in-law in the Covenant School, and her son is Alex Apple. He's Mayor O'Connell's press secretary. And Hannah McDonald on Channel 5 is her daughter-in-law. So I mean, it's like that's why I call News Channel 5. I call it Covenant 5 because they're reporting. They're like a propaganda machine for the Covenant School.
Okay, so all right, let me make sure I understand. You were arrested for criminal trespass. I mean, so a church had you arrested.
Criminal trespass.
Aggravated. Now, did you hit anybody? Did you do any damage to the property?
I'd been a couple weeks before, and there was actually telling about the molesting, and they didn't have anything on file. They couldn't arrest me because I wasn't trespassing. That's the whole thing. I've contended I've never been trespassed. It's Sunday morning, 11 o'clock service. I mean, you can't do that to people unless you've been the judges or you got something going on. I was a deacon, so I knew what the rules were, but all of it was a fraud. All of it was a lie and deceit and sleight of hand to transform me into this dangerous criminal.
So had you received any kind of notice through the mail or anything? Hey, you are not welcome here, or you're
2008.
2008, and then
I got and they used that in trial. It was about 7 years old, and I'd been back to church for a wedding and some other things. Nothing had been done to me, but on this particular day, at this particular time, with everything that was going on at that time with the courts, it was a good idea to let's go get him.
Okay, all right,
and they did.
Let's back up to the beginning here, when you first started at the church, because I think maybe we can fill in the blanks. Before we do that, is there anything else new that you wanted to talk about in terms of this court case, things that just came out before we go back and cover everything from your initial days at Covenant until the things you initially discovered that you tried to report and so on. So things involving the court situation, go ahead and fill us in on those things that you think people need to know about. And then we're going to go back to the start of your time at Covenant. Okay.
Yes. And I'm putting out, y'all may have some of this, but I'm putting out, I have a Twitter account called BuzzFeed News Source, all one word, at BuzzFeed News Source. And then I have a website called www.thesilentbell.org. And so people can get in there and look and see. It's a lot. I mean, it's covered in 20 years of things that have gone on. It's kind of a rabbit hole. But at the Twitter account, they may be able to find some of these things that are more recent listed. Okay. But what happened is that when you file a motion, you got to file like the intervening motion. You got to file a brief supporting it, and then I filed an affidavit that I signed when I'm testifying. I'm taking this down to court, and I'm swearing this is the truth. And then I gave them exhibits, and inside of those exhibits, and at the time when I'm doing it, I haven't put some of this stuff together, even in my own mind, because 2 days after the shooting, I got a tip. I got a tip from the Daily Beast. 2 reporters at the Daily Beast wrote me an email and called me. And this is one piece I'll read here. And y'all got the I think the email maybe to put up where people could see it. But it says, my colleagues CC'd here and I are also curious if you ever crossed paths with Audrey Hale during your time investigating the abuse allegations. And then it has a parentheses. A relative of Hale's told us that Hale was interviewed as part of some sort of internal investigation, but that it was swept under the rug by Covenant and never prosecuted. So I'm finding it out 2 days after the shooting.
This is 2 days after the shooting.
Yeah, I'm finding out that they're contacting me because they've seen all my court documents. They're seeing everything that's going on. They're going, oh my God, there's been this guy's over in court and accused, child sex abuse allegations and all this stuff. So they're trying to see, did I ever cross paths with her?
Right.
We crossed paths because they were in school together, but I hadn't crossed past that. But the thing is, sometimes you can be crossing the path and not know you've crossed the path because she was over in the school, and the school and the church are meeting in the same building, and we're all there. But we weren't. My daughter wasn't in the school at that point in time, when some of this stuff is going on because she's moved on, and so when I'm looking back at this now. I put the next exhibit I had in here says, was this the motive? And it's an exclusive on the Nashville shooter from Candace Owens. And Candace had a show on November 7th, and she was saying she'd been getting a tip that Audrey had been sexually assaulted during those years when she was like a student at the Covenant School. Didn't say who did it or anything. That's just what a tip she got. Okay? Audrey, at the final moments, her last things that she says, one day this will make more sense. I've left more than enough evidence behind. And then the last thing she says is, forgive me. And so there's nothing that justifies anything that she's doing at all, at all. But there's something, I think, back there. And so now we're going to get into when this I'd requested an investigation. I requested one, it got denied, and I came back and requested another. It was tied to this other case where there was a safe house, and children were taken from a father at the church, and they were put in.
So this is when you first started going to the church, way back in the early 2000s, correct?
Well, I started going in 1991, 92, right after the church got founded. This guy, John Perry, is the protected child molester up there, and he's a prominent Southern Christian biographer for Mike Huckabee did a couple of books for him. He did it when he was running for president in 2008, and he's done Chuck Colson written the books about him. He wrote for Judge Roy Moore down in Alabama, and wrote Reverend Franklin Graham's final book on his father when his father died, and they published the book on Reverend Billy Graham. He wrote that book, and then they had to, he'd gotten fired from the project after he wrote it. Then they got another name on the book, and John sued HarperCollins trying to get paid for that book.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on just a second. You say that Perry is what? He's a known or he's a convicted. What did you say?
He's a prominent. He's a protected child molester by everybody. Maybe the most protected child molester in the world. Because he's Billy Graham's, writing a book about Billy Graham and Mike Huckabee and all these famous Christian people.
Well, hold on. Okay, how do you know he's a child molester? What's the evidence on that?
Well, because I've been in court, and they've come boldly into court, and everybody's got up and had no problem because they've known the courts have been against me. They just come up and testify. So here's a child sex abuse sworn testimony from Carolyn Post-Cone, who was one of the expert witnesses that testified against me in a $3 million lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit against me saying I was re-victimizing the victim by exposing the child sex abuse, kind of like what they're saying now about all the kids are going to be re-victimized. It's a way of, it makes people not be able to talk clear because you're afraid you're going to re-victimize somebody.
Okay.
And,
okay. Hold on just a second though. I think we're still just missing something.
Okay,
here.
I'm getting ready to read sworn testimony to you.
Okay, go ahead.
She's a child sex abuse expert witness. She came and testified, and I said, and this is in the Silent Bell. You can find it when you go look. It says, question by Mr. Davis: who is the molester? Answer: who's the what? Question, the molester, do you know who the molester was? Answer, yes, sir. Question, did you name him? Answer, yes, sir. Question, who is it? Answer, John Perry.
Now, okay, who is by Mr. Davis, and then who's he talking to?
I didn't have a lawyer. I was asking my own questions in court. I was acting as a lawyer.
Okay, so all right, so who are you asking these questions to?
Carolyn Postcona was the child sex abuse therapist that handled all the counseling.
Okay.
And she's telling us, and they're testifying about all the counseling that went down. I mean, you can't get any better than the counselor and the people that are involved in the case. They know more about it than anybody.
So this was the case.
They came into court.
Okay, which case? I mean, I'm trying to keep straight. There was more than one case involved.
I filed three lawsuits, cover-up lawsuits against Covenant Presbyterian Church, the PCA, Presbyterian Church of America, well, through the Nashville Presbytery. All these guys, been united together, and I've been filing lawsuits. And then they were all defeated, and as soon as they all got dismissed and defeated in the courts, then I got a $3 million lawsuit against me by the child molester's attorney on behalf of the molested victim of the child molester, which is kind of unusual. Most people come file lawsuits that don't have the molester's attorney representing them.
What was the result of that case?
I wouldn't give discovery. I was adamant about with the judge. I said the police should be arresting this guy. He's wanting all this discovery. He's wanting to know who I'm talking to. He's wanting to know how I got information. He's not getting a thing from me. It's a criminal matter. I want him to, I'm not giving him anything. He gets no discovery. And so a default judgment was awarded. And then we had a damages trial, and they got $2.1 million judgment against me, but they had to come into court and testify about what happened. And that's how they got there and testified about the child sex abuse, and actually got on the stand, and the victim and the counselor all came into court and testified, and the judges were actually, looking when it was over, they're going, did they just come in and say this? And so the judge in that case actually wrote a letter to the DA and sent all the videotape testimony over to him and said, Mr. Davis is saying nobody's investigating this, and he sends it over to the DA Funk, and of course the DA Funk ain't going to do anything about it because he's prosecuted me as a threat to the Covenant School. And so they're what they've done is they're gaslighting and they're demonizing me because they got to do everything to protect the child sex abuse cover-up that went on in the church.
Okay, so let's back up here just a little bit. All right. So the first time, what was the first indication that something might be going on in the church that shouldn't be? When was that, and what was it?
March 2002, and I didn't know about it until probably April. A man up there who was a covenant member, and he was married, and he was having, they were in their second marriages, and they had about 8 kids, and the church did. They had a argument, dispute out in the parking lot. Different, no police got called at the time. Nobody got arrested or anything. But then he took a couple of his kids and went to somewhere, and she went where she went, and they split up that night to cool down, whatever it was. His father just died, I think, and so there was a lot of stress on them. But anyway, she was a church staff member. Her husband was a powerful elder in the church, and so he's kind of at a disadvantage because she's got a lot of power around her.
You mean her father? So, not her husband, her father, right?
Her father-in-law, yeah, her father, and then all the pastors, and then she's a staff member.
Okay.
So he's up against it in there. And so after this happens, they split up, and then she and her children, I think there were maybe 6 of them at the time, got put over in John Perry's safe house. He had a house where people were coming. He had a house, and he had a pool in the backyard or whatever, in a pool house. And so people would get put over there, and so now they're over there staying in that house.
Put over there by who? Put over there by who? Who put them over there?
By the church. The church members. They were over there for like 30 days, and the father didn't even know where his kids were. He didn't know where his kids were, and he didn't give his consent or anything.
But the church did this. The wife. So to clarify, you're saying that the church orchestrated this versus the wife just maybe on her own going over there and hiding out from him?
Yeah, they were all involved. She's the damsel in distress telling them, and then they're going, oh, God, and then they put her over there, and then they're called. Then the next morning he comes into church thinking everything's okay, And then his father-in-law, her father, doesn't serve him and his children communion. And so he's kind of stunned because he's like, wait a minute, he doesn't know what all's going on. So then he writes a letter to the head of the PCA out in Atlanta and says, please, come in and I'm getting hammered over here. And he was crying out for somebody to come in and bring some process to it a little bit. And they didn't do that. They said, submit to the men. And then he got called in a couple nights later. And by the end of the week, he's turned over to the police, and he's getting booked and everything.
For what?
So, well, he reached out to the head of the PCA and said, there's a problem over here in Covenant, and I need somebody to come help. I'm getting hammered. And I guess they didn't like him going above them.
But that's not a police matter.
None of this has been the police matter. You got a church that's gone wild that's using the armed force of Nashville, Tennessee. They're married to the police department. And anybody that goes to that church better be careful that they don't ever raise their hand and ask a weird theological question or look funny or say something bad, because they too can have the Nashville Police Department destroy their life.
Okay, but they still had to have some premise, even if it was false, to arrest him on or to do something.
Well, they did.
With him,
the
right?
wife said the wife made a bunch of allegations against him.
Okay. All right. So, but the kid was. Some of the kids were taken. All the kids were taken from the father.
They were put in the house for 30 days. They're in the house.
Okay.
They're in the house for about 30 days. And there's sworn testimony about that. And it's been undisputed. And so we're not worried and thinking that anything's going on. This guy's a trusted, respected person. But as time moves on, I wasn't even involved, and I get involved about a month later when I'm hearing about it. I'm raised man, like, you can't take people's children from, I don't care, we could take them for a night maybe and try to help them or get them a hotel room or something, but you can't be taking people's children and putting them over in some place and their dad doesn't even know where the kids are. I mean, the courts weren't even involved in it, then. This is all the church. It's not even gone to like a civil authority or anything. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. So when you
intervening for a night, like if my wife came in and said, "Hey, I'm scared also." I think it's okay for a man to like say, "Well, why don't you come in? We'll protect you tonight." But like, I'm not going to get that involved in staying. That's where civil authority and people need to get involved after that point. But he didn't know where his kids were for 30 days.
Wow. Okay. And
then the battle's on, and he's in the worst spot he can be in. And it only gets worse till he's absolutely destroyed. And everybody in the church is like, people like, I knew one guy was carrying a gun to church because he was afraid he was going to come in and start shooting people. All the lies that start getting told. And he never did anything. He submitted and came there and got his ass handed to him. And I felt guilty for it because I kept telling him, submit to the men. And these are good men here. They're not going to do anything bad to you. They're trying to do godly things. And I really feel like I really hurt him.
So when did you find out that something went wrong while this woman and her kids were staying at the house? When did you find that out? And what was it you found out?
DCS was all over the case anyway, because you've now got a divorce proceeding beginning. You got DCS, all kinds of charges are being made against him. We're now getting ready to get in a full war battle. And I found out like in April. And when I found out, and the reason I found out was because my wife and an elder's wife were teaching. This is Covenant. I mean, it's a pretty high level church, so they're not used to like having Jerry Springer, go on in there. But they're teaching Sunday school, and one of his children was, was like 5-year-old girl, and she was in the class, and they were teaching, and all of a sudden a bunch of men in suits came down. They didn't know who they were, and these are officers' wives. And they didn't know who these guys were, and they came down and said, whatever happens, do not let, I'm not going to say the guy's name, don't let him come in here and get his daughter. And that sent a message to him. All of a sudden, what do you think the women Sunday school teachers thinking? Oh, my God, he's done something to himself. So they do that. So as soon as church is over, they come to the house, and they get me in the living room, and they sit me down and said, you need to really pay attention here, because there's something, we know some things that y'all might know about the wife, and y'all may know some things about the guy, but like, don't be careful here where you're treading. And they were basically saying, don't just accept blindly the word or what's going on there. And so they start telling me that he's been, arrested and all the other things I've been hearing. This is a month later. And so I went and picked up the phone, called one of the pastors, and said, because I was a chairman of the Mercy Ministry, which our job was to minister to people in distress. So I'm thinking, well, I may need to go see this guy and try to help him, or any of them. And so I called, and the pastor said, keep your nose out of it. It's none of your business. Just keep your nose out of it. And if God calls you into it, come in then. But right now, stay out. And I never had anybody tell me something like that. I was really shocked. And then I called an elder and basically got the same kind of, same kind of advice. And so I didn't do anything.
Now, who were the people that came and told the teachers, these five guys? Who were they? They were from the church, or they were from?
It's my wife, who is I'm a deacon. It was her. She knows who the officers are. And it was an elder's wife. And they were teaching Sunday school. And they came to me concerned, saying, wait a minute, something's happening fast. They were just now learning about what had happened. But now they're thinking that this father's being accused of doing something to his child. And the irony of that is that he wasn't, and the person where they were staying in the house, and where the church had put these people in a house that there was a molester. He just was unknown at the time.
Okay, just a little clarify for me. The people, the officers. You're talking about police officers or officers?
Church officers.
Church
officers.
Deacon,
a church officer.
Okay. All right. So now let's fast forward to we found out that the person that they were staying with, the guy that they'd been staying with, had molested one of the children or a few of the children. Yeah. What's the case? What happened there, and what do we know?
Well, we don't know. We don't know if any of those children that were in there were getting having that happen to them, because a lot of them were little, and sometimes they don't talk different things. But there was a couple of things that were bothering some of the wives, and they were seeing some things, and then they were saying stuff to me, and then I don't know that anybody's doing anything, but DCS is already in there. They're already going to court cases, and all this stuff is kind of getting bandied about, and so. It just was a murky mess. And so, but I did have concerns. And so I'm starting to ask the elders, I'm going back and saying, we need to be, I'm writing letters, inside the church, you have it's almost like a legal proceeding. You write a letter or amendment or something to them. And so I'm the only one. I'm kind of an advocate saying we need to get to the bottom of this, and we need to investigate and see what's going on here. And they won't want to do that. But then in 2005, December of 2004, which would have been right before 2005, and then in 2006, if you got to remember, Audrey's over in the Covington school, and she's attending school at this time. And I'm over here now coming up saying, I actually said, you have to, you're mandated, you're going to have to do it. So they began an investigation. And so they began an elder investigation about that time, and this is in documents I provided to Judge Miles in this court case. Okay. They look like they're untouched, but what I started looking and seeing, the question in here was, did you and Audrey Health cross paths? Okay. There was an investigation. She was interviewed. It was pushed under the rug, and no prosecution.
How old was she?
Well, this is in kindergarten through fourth grade.
Oh, wow.
I mean, no prosecution. I mean, is a second grader punched her in the playground? I mean, they're not prosecuting anybody for something like that. So that's what a hell relative. And this is going off what the Daily Beast reporters called me, and they've obviously talked to somebody. And then I don't think they were trying to trick me. I didn't really think. I mean, I was haunted by the questions, but I didn't have any direct connection. I couldn't put it together. But when I really started looking back deep into the earlier years, I'm going, wait a minute. I requested investigations. They started in December of 2004, and then all of 2005 when she would be in third grade, and then in September she's going to fourth grade, and then you swing over to the 2006 time, up to about May, that's the last half of the year. That's when she's leaving and departing Covington School. K through 4.
Right.
Okay. And there was an investigation on it because it hadn't ended, because I'm giving them here's one letter written. It's written to me on June 25th, 2006. It's Exhibit 9 and all the exhibits. But they're writing and saying, we got your letter of May 10 when you tendered your resignation. Not only is Audrey leaving in May, as she's finishing, and she's leaving 2 years earlier. It goes through sixth grade. I'm considering my resignation leaving because I'm so disgusted on all this stuff, and I've been asking about kids, and I've been trying, and I've been taken to the woodshed now for years, and I didn't understand it. And I even said in the next letter that I wrote, I even made this comment. It actually keeps going, and this next letter is dated July 27th, and I'm in here going like investigative committee, it's a 5-page letter, investigative committee, over and over again, the investigative committee. See? I've met with the investigating committee on March 23, 2006. This is when they interviewed me. This is literally, I think Audrey is born on March 24th. And so this is literally a day before her birthday while she's like in school there. And then this is literally 17 years before the church shooting. And I'm up here and there's an investigating committee active right then. Okay, it's active over in the church. And I wrote and I put there, did the investigative committee record all the other witness interrogations as they did mine? I don't even know who they're investigating. I don't even know who they're talking to, but I've got a letter over here that's saying Audrey got interviewed. We know she's there. And so that's where I'm starting to look. Did we cross paths? It's very possible we crossed paths because she could have been being interviewed in this one investigation I know is going on at that time period. I wrote him and said in this letter, what more is the session hiding? What secrets keep the session from repenting? Because they were so hard on me. And I couldn't, and we didn't even, at this point in time, you got to realize, I don't know about the molestation yet. I'm thinking there might be one, but I don't know it for a fact. I'm going to find out later, and I don't find out for a fact till 2012 when I start filing lawsuits. So I'm asking people who are doing everything they can back then to keep people from knowing what's going on. And that's not what a church is supposed to be. It's supposed to be transparent.
So what did you find out? What did you find out in 2012?
That's when I found out that there had actually been child sex abuse, and he had been sent to Arizona in PCS, which is a treatment center down there, and he went down there to the treatment center.
Who's he?
And John Perry, the molester.
John Perry. Okay. I don't know if you're talking about just one guy or if you're talking about more than one guy. So I'm just trying to make sure we got the right person here.
Yeah, same guy. There's only one guy that I know for a fact, and that's why when I'm saying his name, I'm saying it because it's been in BuzzFeed. There are things written. He can say whatever he wants to say. He was excommunicated from the church in 2010, and they said for heinous sins. Heinous is a word they use for something like that. I've been in courts. Nobody's come back and been dispelled. I've been in a criminal trial. People got and testified. Yeah, we knew about him. I mean, this isn't. People are gonna have to go to my website and start reading some of the sworn testimony and everything. But this isn't like it's a fact.
And this is not this is not some sort of vendetta that you and him had or that he had with somebody, because that's one of the things that is actually on your site where he claimed it to be a vendetta of some sort. Was there any sort of vendetta that you know of between you and him, or between him and anybody else within the church?
Well, I don't know what I mean. I don't call like when you're an officer of the church and you're trying to protect kids a vendetta. I'm still trying to protect them. I'll say it again tonight. They are endangering those kids by sticking those kids back in that school. That school is unsafe. It's got bad leadership. They lie. They cover stuff up. They're doing it. They're lying to the whole city. They got everybody in the city. Everybody in the city is doing cover. Some of them, they're literally, I mean, all the way to the Pope, the President of the United States, all the way down. They got all the people down at the Capitol protesting, and they've not come clean on what happened there. This is a fact.
Okay, back up. You said from the president on down. I mean, we're kind of jumping here. So if you're going to jump, you're going to have to explain where you're going to land, because you kind of lost me there. So
well, what happened after the shooting? President Biden got up and made a statement down here, and he didn't. Nobody's really interested in what happened at the school or why it happened or child sex abuse. They're only interested in guns.
True.
I'm not taking any positions on any of that. I support the Constitution, but they're interested in guns. And then the parents are going to Washington and they're going to meet with Congress. They're getting to testify in front of the Senate committee. I didn't get to testify in front of the Senate committees or the House committees. They don't have any of us that are involved in this side of the case in there because we're covered up. We don't count. We're invisible.
Right.
And we're victims of the cover-up. And now people are dead. There's 7 people in there dead. And God help us that there won't be any more, because they just had a bomb threat at the other place they were in, and that, they can come back and say anything about that. But it's a volatile situation, and these are little kids. And I think everybody, it's like being in Jonestown. These parents are in there. They've been traumatized like you wouldn't believe. And so if the police are lying to them and taking them into briefings and doing stuff, I mean, they've been in there. They're inside of a place. I guarantee when they went to school there, people would say, we covered up child sex abuse for years. Welcome to the Covenant School. Well, they defrauded parents when they came in there because they're covering that kind of stuff up.
Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. They've opened the school back up. Do we know from the families that were whose kids were in school during the murders, are all of them still, did they all come back? I would have thought at least some of them would go somewhere else. You know?
Well, I don't know. I don't have a director, but they look like they look like a lot of people are still going. I mean, I can't imagine a lot of new kids coming in over there, but they moved over to Brentwood Hills Church of Christ. I don't even know if they know about what's going on here. They've opened up their church and been kind and Christian and said, come on in here, but then they get a bomb threat. I mean, that's dangerous. And yet that's because wherever Covenant's going, they're now in the middle of all this. And so what do they do when they go play to school and they go over here? They're going to have to take a bunch of armed guards over there to get around a basketball game or something. I mean, it's the house of God. You can't go in and lie and cover this kind of stuff up. And if you do and you persist in it, you just can't do that. And it's not right. I mean, you can't keep lying to people. The police are lying. They're united in what they're doing. They won't admit what they've done.
Okay, so you said the police are lying. What are the police lying about? What do you have to back that up?
Well, they came and told me that we met with them on December 5th, 2012, with about 8 of the high-level police authorities at the West Precinct, and they had we'd given them. I gave them information finally because I went to the U.S. Attorney's office and I went to the FBI, and none of them were interested. So I then went back to the police, and then they did an investigation, and then they came back and told us statute of limitations passed at 19
for molestation.
Wait a minute. Huh?
For molesting children, it passed at 19.
That's what they said.
What you mean? So you're saying that if a child was molested when they turn 19, if something hasn't been done, then nothing can be done. That's what you're saying that they told you?
That's exactly what they told me, and they lied to me because I believed them, and I thought that was the case. Then when I got a lawyer in the summer, we filed our lawsuit, started filing the lawsuits. He's going, wait a minute, that's not true. And he said, like, if it's sexual battery, it's like 21. If it's like rape or something, it's up to like 25 or 26 or something. There's an article on it that a guy named Wade Barterson wrote, and he put all the stuff in there. But they just lied to you. They sat there and they look you in the eye and they just lied to you. And they're doing it to the city right now, and they've done it. They're doing it right now. These guys, the last people in the world that need to be having any of the evidence that Audrey left behind us. She left evidence. I'm thinking that maybe she did. I'm gonna give her that benefit of the doubt. Doesn't change what she did. It's horrible. It's evil. There's no justification. But if she wrote that and said, I've got plenty left behind, and then they're the ones that come in and get it, and then they won't release it. Hell, they may be down there rewriting it. Well, we don't know what they're doing, but they don't want to ever let that out. And that's where this is headed. They've already let the 3 pages, whatever that is, come out, and now they'll say it's too dangerous, and that's where they're headed. They're not going to let the manifesto come out. Unless we are saying something to change that, it ain't coming out. I can tell you. I know how they are. I've been in court with them.
So why? So you think, obviously, you think they're hiding the manifesto because it will expose some of the things that happened earlier on in the church that we've talked about tonight.
Well, let's revisit the letter and the tip. Is the Daily Beast lying to me? I don't think so. That's a dangerous thing. They could have said it in the phone and said it, and we wouldn't have recorded it, but they actually wrote it. In the middle of a mass shooting at a right, I think they were on the hunt. I think a lot of these reporters, they're working for companies. Sometimes the companies won't publish the things. I've actually talked to good reporters. Chase Smith at the Epic Times is a good reporter. He's reported he did an article on the early years of Covenant School and the bullying. And it isn't widely read, but go look it up. Chase Smith, Epic Times, Covenant Culture, bullying. It's about some things going on. Audrey was in the school then.
Okay.
So there are reporters, and so these guys I was getting called by the New York Times, I mean, all kinds of people. They were all over me. I was in a state of shock because I was the first person that people were saying was the shooter.
Okay, who was saying you were the shooter?
Hell, it was on the internet. There was people were putting stuff out there. I mean, people in Canada and everywhere were looking on. They were finding our lawsuits. Like my daughter was then when it said it was a 27-year-old former student. Who do you think was the next person that was being out there? Daisy. That's my daughter. We were being the first two people, and that's why they waited all day. And then they said, we got to check this out because they were really trying to check out because the first person was a white male in camouflage. I've had friends. I had a guy call me today, and he said, man, that morning, he said, when they finally announced it was her, he said, I was glad because I was getting phone calls going, they destroyed Austin, ruined him, destroyed him, and he's now lost it. You know, that's what people don't know me very well was saying. And then they go, now I can tell them it wasn't you because it was somebody else. But the second person was Daisy.
Did law enforcement talk to you or your daughter about this issue?
They've never talked to us, but I told this on a podcast that's coming out tonight. Jeremy Sladen. He's got a podcast that's coming out, I think, tonight. But Jeremy, I told him, I said, I will bet the mothers were on Tommy. What's her name?
Tommy Lahren. Tommy Lahren.
Yeah, she had an interview with him, and they were saying that they don't want to release any of this because it's still an open investigation, and they were saying that they're looking for an accomplice. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not an accomplice with her or anything at all, but they're trying. I mean, they may doctor something. They've already framed me before when they had a federal judge come in and say that I was a Sandy Hook shooter threat to the school.
Who said that? A judge said that?
A federal judge, it's an elder at Covenant, came in and testified against me in front of a jury and started invoking that the moms up there were all scared and that Sandy Hook had happened and that they thought I was capable of doing what had happened at Sandy Hook. I don't even own a gun. This is the kind of stuff they've done, and nobody reported on it. The media didn't cover it. It was all done in secret, but it was to totally destroy me in the Nashville community, and they did it. They did a great job of it.
So this was an elder in the church testifying at one of the trials.
Federal Judge John Bryant. It's inside the www.thesilentbell.org.
Wow.
It's also at the BuzzFeed Source News. You can go look, and you'll look down through and read, and you'll finally see something on John Bryant. It even shows his testimony in there. I've even got where you can see testimony in there where he's in there and starts talking about Sandy Hook. And the other guy, Scott Troxel, who was the head of the GNAR or whatever, the real estate, Greater Nashville Real Estate, he came in and testified. He was the one that wrote me the trespass letter years ago that was bogus. And he came in and testified, and he said that he invoked Sandy Hook. See, they had to go in there and make me in to the greatest demon in the world and then get me. And I'm banned. Even now I'm banned.
Okay,
my wife and I and my daughter are banned from Covenant today.
This was the trial, the criminal trespass trial that you were in, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Right.
Aggravated crime. I got convicted, and later on I got put in jail.
You were in jail for how long?
18 days.
18 days. I'm just curious if there's any other church in the country that's convicted anybody of criminal trespass. That seems a little strange.
Well,
okay.
and Sandy Hook, then you see Sandy Hook is the people coming down here and getting involved with the Covenant mothers and everybody. I mean, if Sandy Hook, do they know what's going on down there, that there's a child sex abuse cover-up and that all this stuff's happening? I mean, do they know that, like, when I had my trial, in 2017, that Judge Casey Moreland was my judge that indicted me. He got arrested by Jack Smith, Trump's special prosecutor. And they prosecuted him, and he got convicted. He went to jail for 3 years. He's the guy that bound me over indictment. There's no way he should have been my judge because he had friends and connections in Covenant. But see, they had to get me indicted. So they got me bound for indictment. I went in front of I didn't know about it. They had one grand jury that indicted me. We were in a lawsuit with Harpeth Hall because that's where my daughter went. And a person who wrote the Harpeth Hall alumni letter about her was on my grand jury. Then they had a second grand jury that indicted me again because I wouldn't make a deal. I wouldn't plea deal. I wouldn't admit to anything because I wasn't guilty. So then the second grand jury happened, and later on I find out that the Covington Armed Security Guard is on the grand jury. Now, maybe that's fair. Maybe in Tennessee that's right. Maybe every time you get arrested by a cop, you'll find out later on that the cop that arrested you is on your grand jury, but that's what's happening, and they've got it rigged. It's rigged down there.
Wow.
We're in trouble. We're in trouble in America. We're in trouble in Tennessee. We're in trouble in the courts. We're probably in trouble with elections. I mean, we're in serious trouble.
Well, I appreciate you coming on tonight. We got a few minutes left. Anything else that you would like to say, especially if it's in reference to the trial, the motion that you made that was denied, or any other recent revelations that haven't been reported that you think people need to know about? And of course, everybody can go to your site, the silentbell.com, or the other one was BuzzFeed. What was it?
Yeah.
Your BuzzFeed account.
Well, this the main takeaway is I gave exhibits, and there's something going on in 2006 that I think was going on. And one of the reasons I say that is because Brink Fielder is the Covenant Armed Security trainer that went in and trained the people like in January of 2022. They never had security. Then they have a training for a bad guy. And so everybody's getting worked up over that. They got a bad guy when there really hadn't been anybody going to come in or do anything. But they're trying to do, it's kind of the hysteria that gets created internally.
Right.
Like when the pastors put on bulletproof vests under their black robes, they're creating hysteria when they do that. And so when they did that, he was on Brian Wilson, and Michael Patrick Leahy, wrote about this and put an audio out. But he said in that interview that Audrey Hell only went to Covenant School from K through third grade, and that she was not there beyond third grade. And he's kind of like an unofficial spokesman for the police department because he was a police officer for 18 years. Then he was a Nashville drug force guy. And then he's got this security thing. So he comes on Brian, he's kind of going, because Brian Wilson said, when did she go to school there? Nobody's really told us when she goes. Well, he said she only went to K through third grade. They didn't go there fourth grade. So that eliminates 2006 when this investigation over there is really heated up in 2006. And somebody's over here saying that Audrey got talked to. And then she leaves school. I'm thinking something happened over there in 2006 between January and May. And then I'm leaving because I'm beat up. And so that's one thing. Nobody may care. Nobody may want to ask any questions, but there's something going on there, I think, based on the information, the tips and things I've been given. The second thing is that I wrote Jack Smith again and again, asking him to come down and help me because I knew I was in a lot of public corruption, that they were just destroying me here. And he resigned from the DOJ as a U.S. attorney it says early September. My trial started on September 11th. I didn't know where he went because I didn't know where he went. They didn't tell us where he went. But now that he's become Trump's special prosecutor, about ready to start a civil war, and they're indicting. And I'm not saying I'm on any side because I'm out of politics. I'm fighting this battle, and it's enough of me. But I think everybody ought to get a fair trial, no matter who it is.
Right. I
don't think we got that going on anymore. And so he's over here doing all these indictments and everything they're doing. And so...
but that doesn't have anything to do with your case.
Huh?
But that doesn't have anything to do with your case.
Except I didn't get in front of the whole world and say there's no man above the law. There's a man above the law, and his name was Jack Smith over here when I was asking him, please help me. He didn't give a shit. He let me go get sheared and go all the way through the system, get arrested, go through my trial, get arrested, go through the grand juries, go to the Court of Appeals, go to the Tennessee Supreme Court. It's a criminal case. My trial transcript wasn't even signed by the court reporter. But that didn't matter to anybody. And that's what I'm saying. There's some really crooked things going on, and this, I'm here talking about it. I've been pretty much alone And but people need to know because it's almost over. I mean, the lights are going out on America. I do want to end on this last thing. I guess I've had my mother passed away. She's 87. She passed away a couple of days ago. I broke my ankle the night I filed the motion, and it was very bad. I was in the hospital, had surgery. I hadn't seen her in a couple of months, and I got to go see her a couple of weeks ago. I went back to see her again that day, and then she passed away like that night after I'd been there with her.
Sorry for your loss.
And yes, I appreciate it. But my mother and my father were incredible people, and my mother was her distant grandfather was a Colonel Valentine Wood and Colonel John Henry, and John Henry was Patrick Henry's father, so that would make him her distant blood uncle of mine. And then Dolly Madison was the first lady for James Madison, the father of the Constitution, and she's the one that got everything out when the White House was being burned. Right. And so there's a piece of me when police came to my home and when all this has been done that arouses something in me because my family, like, we've all been canceled and everything's been canceled as it is, but we're about ready to lose the whole country. And so I do think that this is important, what's going on with Covenant. And anybody's listening, I think you need to send the bell, let people start reading it. I mean, if you care about America and want some justice and want fair trials and fair elections, all those kind of things, people are going to have to start speaking out and telling other people and pass word because Tokyo Rose is the media, and she ain't going to tell anybody what's going on in America anymore. She's lying to us, and Tokyo Rose is the media. That's what the Japanese had when they wanted to talk to the American soldier and lie to him.
Right.
It's inside of us now. Okay. So that's all I want to say.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for being with us. And, once again, anybody can visit your site, silentbell.com. And what was your BuzzFeed address again?
It's www.silentbell.org, not .com, .org.
Okay, sorry.
And then Twitter is at BuzzFeed News Source, I believe is what it is, at BuzzFeed News Source.
Okay. Well, hey, once again, thanks for being with us. And I will talk to you again later, and good luck to you. Take care, and we're going to go ahead and end this for tonight.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I do want to say I want to make sure everybody understands the parents at Covenant. They have my full sympathy. I hate the thought of anybody losing a kid. That's terrible. But I also have a problem with they have now latched on with what we call the commie mommies up there in Nashville that are all about restricting guns, restricting your Second Amendment right. So I do sympathize with their loss, but I don't agree with them attempting to restrict other people's rights, and I certainly don't agree with them trying to keep this manifesto from us, because we all need to know what happened. Absolutely, the truth is the truth no matter what. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch our program. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so you never miss a show. The TI is available to listen to as an audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and other popular podcast platforms. Do a search for the Tennessee Informer and you'll find all of our shows, or you can find them on our website at tninformer.com. While you're there, please take a moment to sign up for our weekly newsletter to stay up to date. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Just search for @TNInformer. Share us with your friends. Tomorrow on Tuesday the 16th, we'll have author Robert Spencer of Jihad Watch to talk about how the left is trying to start a civil war. Hope you'll join us. That's it for now, and good night from Paris. Tennessee, that is.